What's going on, people? I'm back again with another podcast. Third time going live in 3 days, and therefore he'll come on the show and have his little verdict on what happened on Saturday and tomorrow's game and other things on Dez's mind.
Can't,
Because he's not. Oh, what?
can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
I'll go out and come back in.
Oh my days, this guy. So yeah, so Dez has got lots to talk about. People in the chat. I've done a poll as well. Who's going to win? Either West Ham, draw, or Forest. 9% says West Ham. 45% says draw, and 45% says Forest. So what's everyone saying as well? And shout out to my sponsor, Adam Holland's Far and Wide. There's the kindly sponsor my channel to the end of the season. So if you want to know more about Alan's Holland's Far and Wide, please link in the description as well. And if you want to see the vlogs from the last 3 visits I've been to London Stadium, go and check them out as well. So yeah, while Daz sorts out his phone out, I think he's got the World Steve's Wi-Fi. I said yesterday on my podcast, this game is massive, absolutely massive. After Saturday's result against Aston Villa, it wasn't great, was it? So can we get a performance? That's we need a win. we need a win because he is we need a win. It's simple as that, and it's going to be tough because the West Ham lot will be up for it. The fans will be up for it, and we're in this. If West Ham win tomorrow, it's only 1 point, but listen, we're in deep trouble. And like I said, I don't know how long Des is going to be, but it is tough. It is going to be tough. Let me put my one screen on first before Des comes on. But it's going to be tough. So people in the chat, what is your score predictions for? Is this Des? Here he is. Des is back.
I can hear
Yeah,
you.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Des is back on the stream as well. So make sure everyone shows some love to Des as well. Before we do get Des on, let's say Mohammed's on here. Ben Dore, let's hope we got a big performance tomorrow and crucial 3 points. We need to get them 7 points clear. Gordon says, guess who's back? Sheddy's back. Eminem. Glenn says, how you doing, Glenn? I'll see you tomorrow. Evening, Dore and Des, huge game in East London tomorrow. See you both there. I'll see you tomorrow, Glenn, as always. And Chris says, good to see Dore New Delhi. Why? Yeah, you know how I said New Delhi, as you know, Des is back doing his YouTube working, aren't you, Des?
Yeah. Just for New Year, new start and all that. Thought I'd give it a go. Just playing about with it at the moment. See which direction I take it in. Just me rambling about.
You know what? I had a go at Des earlier on, and I said to him, Des, people like listening to Des doing football, and I said to Des, people in the chat, do you think Des should do football talk on his YouTube channel? You're not going away with it, Des. You are going to start doing football content.
People like you do so much of it. You know,
I
don't need to get involved.
People, right. People, if Des should do football content on his channel, put the thumbs up. Put the thumbs up. Then we need at least 10. If we get more than 10, Des can start doing football content on his channel as well. So yeah, there's lots to talk about.
So much.
We're going to talk about. Des going to talk about the Aston Villa game. Talk about West Ham game. I don't know if people saw the news with there's a lot to talk about. But Des, first of all, we should talk about the Aston Villa game. You was there as always. What was your verdict on the game?
It was bad, wasn't it? It wasn't very good. Yeah, it was another tough one to take. Of course, the team's massively lacking confidence. You can see that throughout. You know, I've questioned 1 or 2 bits of application in recent weeks, whether it's been on here or on my personal vlogs before and after. You know, so it's a little bit worrying, and we just knew really going there that it was going to be a long afternoon. And when you contribute to your own downfall in the way we did, you know, it's only going to make things worse. I thought we were sloppy right from the outset. You know, Murillo was giving the ball away. We couldn't get outside, couldn't get out of our own half, couldn't get out of our own penalty area. Never mind our own half. So it was a real struggle from the outset. And we know Villa come on strong. The last couple of years, they've been 2-0 up fairly quick in the game. It's the way I feel Unai Emery sort of attacks us, and then second half we tend to be that little bit better. But we managed to keep them out, which was quite pleasing until the point where again we real basics, you know. And this is not on the manager, and I'm not all for or all against the manager, but this is not on the manager at all. When you've got to throw it in the 47th minute, throw it down the line, you know. Simple things. Fullbacks know that. I played fullback. You know, you throw it down the line. You don't throw it inside, and then you know your midfielder don't do too well, and then the goalkeeper doesn't do too well, and you're 1-0 down, and they're gonna come out with the tails up. Second half, you knew that second goal was coming. It's a bit like when we played Spurs. It felt a bit the same, but vice versa. You know, and then once that second goal goes in, you know, we're really struggling. Not that we would ever look like getting in it. Good goal, obviously. You know, thought the ball was a bit lucky to get through the gap it
I
did.
know. It
From
was.
where I was up, I was at the front of the upper tier, so really good view of it. And of course, an excellent finish by Gibbs White. And you never know. You've always got a chance, haven't you? And football's funny. Sometimes you don't deserve what you get, and sometimes you get exactly what you deserve. And you never knew from that point. And then for the goalkeeper to do what he did, you know, I don't think I need to say much more on that. What people haven't already. It was just absolutely bonkers. But the most worrying thing in what the goalkeeper did was actually the fact he felt he had to go off after, you know, which just to me, it tells you that it tells you everything about where the players are at right now. And I don't think they're in the right place, and I don't think they're up for it. You know, if you're accusing Sean Dyche of um, being a dinosaur and old school tactics, then none of them goals would have been conceded because old school tactics, get the ball thrown down the line from your fullbacks, get it as far away
Mm.
as possible. You know, your keeper stays rooted on his line and doesn't do anything. Second goal, you know, make your tackles and get the ball on and things like that. That would be what people are accusing him of. But these are individual errors, you know, and they're just costing us, and just a lack of application. And when I say application, I don't necessarily mean a lack of effort all the time, but effort includes concentration, you know. And I was complaining about this when we first got into the Premier League, the amount of errors, and it was when Nuno come in and we cut out the errors. You know, we didn't play much differently from Cooper to Nuno, you know, but it was when he come in and we cut out the errors, and then that gave us a really sound base to build on, and then we had the likes of Chris Wood, Gibbs White, you know, and the wingers sort of firing on all cylinders when they got the opportunity. And I think we could do that again, but the errors are there, and like what I said from Murillo, application. You build yourself into a game.
Des, he was awful, Des. I thought Miller was awful.
Absolutely, but this is what I'm saying. Look, none of what he did cost us, but it's what it builds up over a period of the game. Keep giving them the ball, our confidence drops. They get sky high with their confidence, want to keep coming on to us. You know, keep giving them, turning it over is the fact you've given them the ball anyway, so it's another opportunity to come again. And I think this is what happens. And you hear me quite often when we're playing cup games. I did it at Blackpool a few years ago. We're 2-0 up, and I says we're gonna get a bit of a fight here, and they ended up pulling it back to 2-2 because once complacency sets in, and this is what I've seen from Forest over the last 6 or 7 weeks. You know, I was quite vocal in Utrecht
Mm.
because it was the same as Wolves. We looked really good for 15 minutes, like we could take them to the cleaners, and then all of a sudden the application drops because they think they're too good. They are better than this opposition. Do you know, they're so much better than the opposition they're facing, but that's where they should have been taking it to the opposition, killing them off, winning games, and then if a bit of game management comes in, but they just got a bit like lethargic and thought they were too good, and then the results, when the results don't follow, that's when the pressure piles back on, and that arrogance and confidence stroke arrogance turns into a lack of application, and then the confidence dips. And I think this is where we find ourselves. When you look at the team, I looked at the starting 11, which when you look at not every player, of course you wouldn't swap the goalkeepers and you wouldn't swap the strikers probably, but you look around the rest of the team and most of Forest players, if Villa could just pick them, cherry pick them, they probably would. They'd probably
Mm.
take Murillo. They'd probably take Milenkovic. They'd probably, like, as a one-off. Obviously, they wouldn't have they won't pick the whole team because they're miles better than we are. But if you could, on top form, if they could pick an Anderson or a Gibbs White, you probably wouldn't have Gibbs White over Rodgers, to be fair.
Well,
But
I don't know. I think
in the
Rodgers. I think
main,
I
in the
think Rodgers is better
main,
than Gibbs White right now.
pardon?
I think Rodgers is better than Gibbs White now.
Well, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. But in the main, there's lots of players in there. But when we lined up against Everton, games aren't won on paper. Absolutely not. They're lost because of all these things I've just said. But when we played Everton, again, most players would get into that team. In most positions. Of course, again, the goalkeeper that you'd have Pickford over what we've got. But once you start looking after that, you know with players on top form in both sides, I know Jimmy Garner had a good game and we're linked with him and you'd think there'd be a place for him. Of course they would. But with players like on top form, in the positions they're in, you think we should be winning these games. And this is why I think it is a lack of application and a little bit of lack of effort, and that's harsh to say and that's a big thing to say. But I think if they don't step up, it's only going to keep going one way because that's how football is. It gets harder and harder as the season goes on. And tomorrow, of course, is a big opportunity to try and put that right.
I was saying this just on my podcast, and people in the chat, if you want to get involved, please do. Do you think we lack a leader now? Because we know Gibbs White. For me, I don't think he should be captain. If I'm honest, but do you think we missed that leadership? Because I said yesterday, I miss Yatesy. I'm not gonna lie, I miss Yatesy.
I think I don't think we lack a leader when things are going well. I think we're lacking a leader right now, and a leader in terms of performance. The leader in performance is Nico Williams. He's the one who stands out and puts his heart and soul into it. Jesus, I don't care what anyone says about this goal scoring record. Jesus is phenomenal most weeks. What he's doing in controlling that ball, the lack of support play and the lack of chances in front of goal is more frightening than anything. But they're leading in performance. Dominguez, when he gets on the pitch, I thought he did well on Saturday. But Gibbs White is a leader. Milenkovic is a leader. Murillo is a leader. I think all these players, we've gone from having 6 or 7 captains, which most good teams tend to have, to having none. And even, look, it's unpopular opinion. Milenkovic is miles off the player he was last season. I keep watching balls bounce in front of him and he's backing off from challenges and things. I'm not questioning his bravery or his purpose, but his confidence again, because of what's happening. And you last season, you would have had those two at the back ahead of anyone. But because it's coming back and the ball's coming over and they're not clearing it first time as they was, and we're not clinical at the other end of the pitch, goals change football matches. That's the be all and end all. And that's why Villa go hard early against us, because goals change football matches. And last year we were getting them, and we were getting ourselves in good positions, quite often scoring the first goal and winning. That was a big thing last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And this is what we're not doing now. We're chasing games from the start, and it's just a really sort of it's a massive disappointment. Again, there's lots of reasons we could probably go into of why it's happening and whose fault it is, but it's just right now on the pitch, it ain't happening.
People in the chat, like I said, they're talking about West Ham Villa game, and like I said, I was disappointed. Des, I think when I think when Gibbs White scored the goal, I thought, oh, we've got a slight chance. I think we had that period, little tiny period of getting something, but then the goalkeeper did a mistake. But let's move forward to the West Ham game, Des, and this is a massive test, and people in the chat get involved when I say this. Like, if we lose lose this game, do you think Dyche could be in massive trouble, or what's your opinion? People in chat as well, get involved, man. What do you
I
say? What are you
think he
saying?
could be. I think he could be, but I'm not. I'm not 100% in the camp that he should be. Do you know? Look at the situation with managers. Do you know? It is getting ridiculous. And if this was Spurs, do you know? Which they're in a very similar position in terms of
Mm,
the fact they're underachieving with a new manager and the fans aren't happy and the players aren't happy and all this kind of stuff. It's a theme running through football. You'd be saying Spurs are a basket case of a club, you know, but we're not allowed to say that about Forest. But the reality is, we're a basket case of a club. Poor decisions, have been made, which has led us here. And is it worse than not winning in eight? It was only 3-4 weeks ago that we were saying that people were saying I won't get too carried away because of what I said about Utrecht and the performance against Wolves and things like that. But people were saying, "Oh, he's top five since he's come in," this kind of thing, top three. This was only 3 weeks ago they were saying
mm,
it. We've had a cluster of games which magnifies everything over Christmas, and condenses the season down a little bit. But I do think it could be, because I know what the owner's like. We all know what the owner's like. We all know what the
mm,
owner wants. And I always thought when Dice come in that he'd never be there for a long, long time, because he's a bit, and this is something I try and give people who are watching confidence in a little bit. Whether they believe me or not is another thing. But if you look at Dyche's teams over years, and I try and find patterns in things in football to sort of work off historically. If you look at Dyche's teams, they tend to do a lot of streaky sort of wins or losses. Five or
mm.
six on the bounce, 5 or 6 on the bounce. So he's always a bit up and down. Look at Everton; he went in there and won lots of games, and then lost lots of games, then kept him safe again when they got a point deduction, and so fans are always in and out of love with him in that sense, And if you with him, you tend to think, well, he can pull us through it. If you're not with him, you're not far from sort of being in that camp again. But how many can we go through? Because at this rate, we could end up with 5 in a season, and that's
Mm,
just ridiculous. And look, people was blaming Nuno for the collapse last season. So when Ange come in. So then when Ange come in and he's doing no better, he's got to go because he's no better. But let's not forget the collapse. I don't necessarily blame the collapse on Nuno. I thought we ran out of steam and didn't have the players to perform for a whole season. Because we got injuries and 1 or 2 players, and now, as we can see, we got no underbelly, we got no second string, we got no one to come off the bench.
mm.
So I get a lot of the frustrations with Dice, but it pulls down to trust again. And every manager's been the same since we've been in the Premier League. Cooper, Nuno, not so much Hands because he weren't there, but now Dice. It actually always boils back to the similar 11. The
Yeah.
core 11. 1 or 2 at times are doing well. Like I say, Jesus come in, done a bit, and previously players have come in. But we know if the wingers are playing well, Hudson Odoi and now Hutchinson, he's doing well. You're always going to get 1 or 2.
Mm.
But it pulls down to trust, and the signings have obviously been poor. Whatever anyone says, whatever anyone believes about players like Callum
That was the
Moreno.
next one. That was the next. I
I
was
won't
about
go
to say,
too into it now. I'll wait for it. But what
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
go into about Callum Moreno and McAtee, if they are still prospects, I don't believe they are. I believe they're poor signings. But if they are prospects, it's not happening. And let's not get carried away with what happened before or what's going to happen next. Right now, it's about right now. It's about the predicament we're in and getting out of it. And I think as football fans, we get a little bit carried away about planning our club's future. My concern is going to West Ham and watching us win tomorrow.
Mm,
That's my concern. And then the process starts again. Then hopefully that gives us confidence to go to, well, Wrexham and beat them, and then
yeah.
that gives you confidence to beat Arsenal. It sounds ridiculous, but that's how it has to be. There's no point saying, "Oh, Callum Owendo's going to come good in 6 months." Well, what good's that for anyone?
Mm,
Because we could already be relegated. But going back to Dyche and your question, yes, I do think he'll be under massive pressure. But he's come in after both the last managers were severely blamed. You know, what was it? What was he supposed to do? There were people telling me when Andrew was there that we're going to be down there all season. Well,
Mm,
to some point, if they were telling me then, accept it, because yes, it's not very good. It's terrible, but I don't think all the blame lies at him. I don't think it all lies on the players. I don't think it all lies on the ownership and the sporting director or whatever it is. But proportionally, there's blame all round, because it's just not happening. At the end of the day, all that matters is we get 3 points, whoever's on the pitch, and
mm,
and that means the manager making the right choices. Look, I'm not buying into this thing in the Everton game about 52 crosses. It's ridiculous, because if we didn't make those crosses and just stood there and tried to pass it through, nothing would have happened. Nothing
mm,
at all would have happened. Even less would have happened. There would have been nothing to watch. We'd have all been sat in the stand saying, "Why aren't they doing nothing?" That boils down to a lack of effort, and a lack of players wanting to make space, working hard off the ball. I didn't see that from Jesus, but the people who are supposed to link up behind him, and I'm their massive, I'm Gibbs White's biggest fan. Gibbs White and Anderson are two of the best footballers I've ever seen at Forest, right? But if players like them and the wingers and the defenders aren't doing their bit, when that ball gets there, what other choice have they got? Because
mm.
if there's nothing to do, that's not a tactic. It really isn't a tactic. And people say, "Oh, he just swung it in, just swung it in." My frustration was they weren't putting it in quick enough when they got it, and that's
Yeah,
because they were looking not to put it in. If you see what I mean. And then the
yeah.
only option came when Everton banked all back in, because they couldn't get out there half for long halves, long periods. And that's where I thought, oh, but then my criticism of Dyche on the back of that is he needs to get them fired up. You know, I
Mm,
don't think it's as much about tactics, because we've got the ability. It seems to be now getting them fired up, and can he do it?
mm,
Are they buying into it? Because it seems to me, since Nuno went, whoever's fault it was, Nuno's, Marinakis, Edu, whatever, and I think there was all at fault. To be honest, as it's proved to be again, is the players have down tools a little bit. They're not playing
mm,
for the managers in the same way they were playing for Nuno. That's
mm.
how it appears to me.
100%. People, please do hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and like I said, Des has started a YouTube channel. I don't know if you can do this. Can you put your link in the description to put so people can start
Yeah,
watching you? If Kay can, I don't know. Can Kay put it in?
she's not here at the moment, but we'll sort it.
Oh yeah, so people like Des is back on Do Daily now. So if you want to, please, if you can subscribe to his channel because he's back on there. And people, like I said, can Des, if you want Des to start talking football, please do. Like Gordon says, he talks more than me. So yeah, cheers, Gordon. But yeah, if no one's seen an article that John Percy's put out, and Des did talk about it about the owner, the director of football, and it's saying John Percy's put, if we lose to West Ham, and basically it's saying if we get relegated, Edu's out of the job, basically. So people in the chat, like I'm asking to get Des' opinion. Whose fault is it? This is my opinion. It's Marinakis' fault. He's the one gets the final say on everything. And Edu, with the all that crap he did with Nuno. But Des, what's your opinion on all this? What's with the Udu thing? Like everyone's saying it's Magnakis, Udu. Whose fault is it, Des?
But ultimately, without going into hard on the owner, because there is lots of brilliant things and lots of amazing
No,
things,
exactly,
and
exactly. Yeah.
I get his clear intention. I like this the winning mentality. But ultimately, in any organisation or business, it's the owner, CEO, chairman takes the responsibility, because they take the good and they take the bad. Of course, he does come in, and he trusts him because he's had a big job and he's popular in the game. I get it. I get the employment, why he employed him to try and take us to another level and entice a better signing. But were Forest really in a position to entice better signings? obviously the way last season finished, you know, it was all about keeping everybody on side and really going into the season finding a positive, and the Brentford game seemed to be that. You know, it seemed like they hit the ground running again, and everybody could get excited for what was to come. But I think the pressure's just got to everybody a little bit. In hindsight, were some of these panic buys? You know, because they weren't getting the first targets. Because look, none of them have been great. And I get again, I'm not defending Nuno because he's acted in a way that wasn't really conducive to anything other than getting himself to sack.
Like
But
Amaresca.
but he was going for like I'm not a big fan of Adama Traore. I always complained they were rubbish. But Nuno wanted him and thought he could add something to this team and knows how he can perform in the Premier League. You know, and we're signing again. I don't want to pick on Callum Mwenda. I don't rate him as a player, but we're signing a player who's never
Yeah,
kicked a ball.
I think he's gone. I think he's been on social media with him with a shirt on, so I think he's gone.
But
So
he never kicked a ball in the Premier League. Backward, never kicked a ball in the Premier League. So look, the sexy signings aren't there? You know, everybody got excited about them, and they perhaps wouldn't have been quite so excited about Adama Traore. But were we that excited about Chris Wood when he came in?
mm,
Do you know what I mean? Not really. And I just think ultimately, I say it time and time again, Premier League experience means so much. And I think we're even seeing it now with Sangare. You know how critical I've been in the past. But now he's had 2, 3 years in and around the league. You're starting to see a player. It's almost
mm,
like a youngster developing, even though he's beyond that stage in terms of his technicality. But it's like you're seeing a young player developing into the surroundings, and we're getting some sort of player out of him, and it takes time. That's what I'm saying. But so if the owner wanted to move on, we know he wants to move on at 100 miles an hour, and we like that as fans. We get a bit carried away with it and think it's all
mm,
going to happen. But I guess Nuno had that pragmatic approach of stepping stones and sort of knowing we'd lose Alanga and getting in somebody a lot cheaper and working with someone he knew and taking us just that little bit. And I think they've just thought, well, let's go and sign all these prospects who are being spoken about. And it's done nothing like McAtee. I talk about Premier
Des,
League experience.
Do you feel sorry for McAtee?
I don't feel sorry for him because at the end of the day, they're professional footballers. And people feel sorry for McAtee, Callum Mwende, Hutchinson before. Ultimately, they've got to play well and get themselves into the team. Make it
Mm,
impossible not to play themselves into the team. It's as simple as that. McAtee came on the other day. He had a corner, first man. You know, it's just a small aspect of the game, but again, it comes down to concentration and application. Do what you have to do well. Whether you get 10 minutes or 90 minutes, do what you have to do well. So yeah, it's frustrating for him. But the point I was going to make was they signed him on the back of being a prospect and the games he played for City. If you actually look at the games he played for City, most of them was in cup games against lower league opposition. Look,
mm,
that's not his fault again. He can only play and do what he can on what platform he's given. But he didn't play many minutes in the Premier League. Man City are prepared to let him go. Don't expect to sign a player for Manchester City and expect him to be a Manchester City level player. You
mm,
know, yes, Cole Palmer was probably the exception, but they don't generally get any better when they leave. You know, and that's the point there, especially with players who aren't quite so good around them, and that's just the
mm,
reality of league tables and where we are in the pyramid. But yeah, McAtee's a frustration, Callum Mwende, but again, it comes down to signings and the fact you still need that core. I hark back. I do it every week. It seems at the minute. Serge Aurier made such a difference. You know, ultimately he ran out of steam and he ran out of sort of motivation. I think himself for Forest, but he made such a difference when we didn't know what we were doing at the back. You know, we
mm,
we was all over the place. Felipe come in, had a bad back, and I know he's not Premier League, but he'd been around a long, long time. you know,
mm,
and he got some experience of of a defender and kick it type team in Atletico Madrid. You
mm,
know, so it's all about getting the right players, and I just think it was a bit scattergun again, like the first season. You know,
mm,
the first season was like that when we spent all that money, and you got Emmanuel Dennis and people like that, and now you've got players who I don't think are any better than that level. When really we were moving gradually forward, you know, and we haven't. We've hit a brick wall.
mm. Massive game tomorrow, Des, and people in the chat as well, man. Watch the score predictions. I'll get Des's score prediction at the end of the show. But tomorrow's game's massive. It's Nuno's back, and I don't know, just all the vibes coming from West Ham. Like there's a few West Ham fans on here as well, saying that we're going to win easy. But we've been here before, Des, haven't we? It's not going to be an easy game at all. Because as you remember, people, we got battered at City Ground 3-0, and everyone assumes that Nuno did it on purpose. But how are you feeling about tomorrow? Because tomorrow is going to be tough.
You know
It's going
what?
to be tough.
It's that same old thing. As the week goes on, I start thinking we can win. You know, yeah, I start going, we're never going to get a result. And then as the game starts getting closer, look on ability again. You know, they are woeful at the back, and we've not been much better. I've made my points on our defending. You know, but they are absolutely woeful. I tell you what, if you put 52 crosses in against them, you will score. You know,
Mm,
because they can't defend a cross to save their life. They're all over the place. And as bad as Wolves were, and I really criticised them when they beat us 3-0 for the first 60, 70 minutes. They were dreadful. It was absolutely dreadful. So what 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 we need to do from somewhere is just be confident, realise the level of player they are, get out there, put in a shift, you know, that it's toxic there as well. You know, it's probably more suited to an 18th versus 19th battle at the bottom of the Premier League. It's probably more convenient for the away team to be playing away. You know,
mm.
with the sort of atmosphere around the place. You know, because it's just going to pile even more pressure on them. But they've made signings as well, haven't they? So we
They made
don't
two
know.
signings. They've signed two forwards, one from Lazio and another one. So
But again, I know this is not the point, but talking about West Ham at the moment, you know, I mentioned Spurs, I mentioned Forest and this basket case thing. Look, Nuno's getting hammered and everyone's saying, I told you so, it's Nuno, it's this, he does that. We don't know that, you know, because they've just given money to sign two players. And the fact is, they could be in the same position, another manager down. Do you know, not everybody can win the league.
exactly. You know what, Des? You're spot on. This what you know what gets on my nerves, Des, because some of our fan base, will are consistently if we lose 2 or 3 games in a row, get him out, get him out, get him out, get him out. I'm like, just chill out, relax. Yes, Dutch has lost 400 pounds, but
Look, it's a problem with football, Dore, isn't it? It's a problem with
yeah.
football. You know, look at and I can't say much because in the end I wanted the end of Postecoglou, but he's the only one I did want the end of. Any of the other managers we've had, I didn't because I don't go chasing them. But look at Celtic. You know, the
Yes.
manager's been there a month. You
20,
know,
22 days.
well, bonkers. But this is the impact that they have to make now. You know, and then you see someone I don't know like Frank Lampard going at Chelsea, and he'll get linked with all the big jobs, and you've seen he's got no substance. He can't do it. But
Mm,
people don't care. They just want to see. They just want to see results. And again, the patient sort of long term fan. I don't want to get too controversial here and sort of label people, but there's no room for that anymore because it's all about this has got to happen. Like I say, I've seen the same people moaning about Dice as I saw moaning about Postecoglou. And look, if that's the way they are, that's the way they are. But what if a new manager comes in and with the same players and doesn't get the results?
mm,
Whose fault is it then? You know, it does actually boil down to ability at some point and effort and application and what happens out on the football pitch. You know, Dice can't be blamed for what John did on Saturday, can he? And like
This is what
Nuno,
this is what guys, this is what annoys me, especially like I said when I watch a lot of YouTube and you see loads of Forest fans who just say, "Oh, it's Dyche this." When they say Dyche ball because of what John did, not John, yeah, John, yeah, what John did. I'm like, you're just finding something just to moan about Dyche.
It's the same with all managers, isn't it? It's Ange ball, or it's this ball, or it's Cooper ball, or it's Nuno ball. It's football. That's what it is. Right? It's football. Contrasting styles, win football matches. Look, Everton come back, and if we'd have beat them 2-0, their fans would have been fuming at that performance because they just sat back, and never come out their own half. You know, and they'd have been absolutely fuming. But now it's badged up as not Moyes ball, but a perfect away performance. They'll call it a perfect away performance, and that's look. I do see faults at times in team selections and things that Dyche has done, but that's his decision. That's what he's there for. He's there to make good decisions, and we know at times bad decisions get made. I hark back to the Everton away game where I felt, and it would have been unpopular. So again, the fans got what they wanted in Hutchinson starting that game, but I think that's what cost us that game. Because I'd have gone with Dominguez sitting in front of Savona because he had to face up to Grealish. He was going to be throwing himself around for 90 minutes, and within 20 seconds, he's on a booking, and we're 1-0 down. So I don't agree with all the decisions, but how unpopular would it be in that day if he'd not played Hutchinson after his form? I get it. So I got why he was in the team. And then all I wanted to see, and I think most people wanted to see against Everton at home, was Hutchinson getting the ball down, running at Tarkowski and that kind of thing. That comes down to Hutchinson. Not so much the manager, because that's Hutchinson's game. He want him swinging the crosses over. Do you know what I mean? But what makes me laugh about this crossing, Sir Alex Ferguson, Brian Clough, look, for John Robbo, who's just died, the greatest crossover football ever, right? What this club was built on was the little fat guy on the wing, right, who will have fullbacks inside out and put the ball over, right? Cloughy, Ferguson, the tactic was get the ball wide, 4-4-2, get the ball wide, get it in. Right? It's what this club was built on. Edit, kick it, Cloughy made it as simple as anyone, and I'm not sort of using that to defend Dyche, but that's what people are criticising now, and I don't think that's necessarily what he wanted to do. But that's the criticism. And it was always the thing that you get the ball wide, you start creating angles. If you're trying to go through the middle all the time, you're just going to come up against a brick wall because they're going to sit in tight, 4 centre back situation, and you'll never get through. So it's so easy to complain, isn't it? And pin all this Dyche ball, Nuno ball, Ange ball, Nobody wanted us to go gung-ho and get beat 3-0 by Chelsea. No one wants us to defend and get beat 2-0 by Everton. It just happens. Look, I saw the cracks before. I saw the cracks in the Spurs game. Everybody's raving and getting excited about how good we were. We weren't that good. Spurs were shocking. Spurs weren't playing for the manager, and I've questioned a bit of commitment and desire already, but they definitely weren't playing for their manager. And what that meant, it just gave us space everywhere. If they're not running, if they're not trying, Premier League footballers in the fine margins should run all over a team. And I think that's happening adversely against us at times. And that's where, of course, Dyche will get the stick. I want him to be harder on them. Take 1 or 2 of them out. Take 1 or 2 of the big names
like who
out.
does? Like who?
Gibbs White.
Really? I said that. You know what? I said that yesterday in my lineup. Take him out.
I don't look. I'm not on this bandwagon of. Look, I love him, and I don't need to keep saying that. But I'm not on this bandwagon of he's been as bad as anyone, because I don't think he has. I think he's one of the bigger triers, But I think human nature sometimes, they're looking at other things. Anderson a little bit, next move, World Cup, Are they throwing themselves in front of things like they were under Nuno? Again, because Nuno left and because they was all fully signed up to that project, human nature sometimes takes over. But then something's got to change, because to keep doing the same thing, yes, that does come back to the manager.
Mm,
But ultimately, I say that, but there's a little niggling thing to contradict me saying, who's going to come in? Because
mm,
we just spoke about McAtee not stepping up. And this is the problem, isn't it? Is players not stepping up. Callum Wende can't step up. Look, and I get battered every time I've mentioned his name. I've never mentioned Taiwo in the same conversation as Callum Wende, and everyone says, "Oh, so you think Taiwo should play?" No, I don't think either should play. But it's down to the manager to pick someone, and I see why the manager does pick Taiwo over Callum Wende because he occupies defenders. He keeps them busy. He gets them moving. That will help Gibbs White. That will help Anderson. You know, a guy just stood there in the middle doing nothing. You know, that's not going to do anything. I'm looking for identity from Callum Wende. I'm looking for identity from McAtee.
mm.
And even backward. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing at times. Yes, he put the ball through finally for the goal, but how many times did he pass it backwards?
Yeah, it frustrated me, Des. I was saying to the lads near me, like, it made Des because when we was in that the situation with Crystal Palace and we wasn't signing players and Forest fans was moaning and whinging about, oh, get this, get this, get this. And when we were linked with a player, we always like everyone's getting hyped up and gassed up. Oh, like players like Colomendo, he's a fantastic player in the French league. Bakwa playing fantastic for Strasbourg. McAtee because he played for Manchester City and Douglas Luiz. Yes, he was fantastic for Aston Villa, but he can't get 90 minutes for his luck because of his injury. It's just frustrated him to these players that are not performing for us after what we did last season. So it's horrible, man. Before you do that, there's a West Ham fan here. How you doing, my friend? Been listening to you for a while, lads, and now you got nothing to worry about coming from West Ham. We are the worst team in the league. Couldn't even beat Wolves. You boys got nothing to worry about. Well, that's come from a Wolves fan, a West Ham fan. Anything else? Thinking where is it? Was it else? As well, I put Des in the link as well. If you can, subscribe to Do Daily. It's in the top link. So all you do is click it and subscribe to him because he's back doing his running. So if you can, subscribe to Des, please. Des, before I get your score prediction, but like, can we do it, Des? Like, do you think what changes do you like? What changes do you think is to bring in? Like, bring Douglas Luiz in, Cam Hudson-Odoi. What people in the chat as well? Please get involved, man. Do you think he should make those changes or stick to the?
Look, for everything I've said, though, I don't think he should make loads because I don't think we've got much in reserve. What I would like to see, and I'm baffled as to, and it's not. This is not a Dice problem. It's not an Ange problem. It started under Nuno. Is why are we not seeing more Douglas Luiz?
Mm,
I get the feeling there's some sort of clause in there. If we play so many games, we've got to sign him, and they're not convinced they want him on his injury record. That's how I'd see it.
mm,
I might be putting two and two together and coming up with 17, but it just feels like there's an issue there because when he come on, he just had that bit of quality. Against Everton, we stepped up. We weren't great second half. We weren't much better than the first half, but
mm,
for 20 minutes, we just looked so much better. There's so much control in his game. Even if he's not popping up scoring goals like he was for Villa, I
mm,
think we've got to play him. And I think the one place we can really dominate is, and this I wouldn't make changes, despite everything I've said. This is purely based on the opposition because I believe we're better than the opposition we're playing tomorrow. Against other teams, you might need to look at it a bit different. But I think the one place where we can really dominate is in the midfield
mm,
because I can't see that they've not got the legs to deal with us, and the defenders are so far apart. They're so wide. And again, that's not the Nuno style. We know that because we've seen it. They're just not doing what they're supposed to do. Yes, there's issues down there with him not picking Wilson, not picking Ward-Prowse.
Well,
But
Price as well. He's not even, since Nunes got in there. Ward Price can't even get on the bench.
I don't get those. But that's why it gives me even more confidence that in that midfield area we can win the game. If our 2-star men, there's 2 real superstars in the team, perform at 75%, and we've got Douglas Luiz sat behind them, I feel we've got a real opportunity. It's hard at the moment because the wingers are so inconsistent. Last year, I felt Hudson-Odoi was so consistent. I think when he's playing well, he's our best winger. I thought it even when Elanga was here. Elanga was effective and powerful and like game changing at times. But I thought in terms of consistency, Hudson-Odoi. So I do like to see the team with Hudson-Odoi in. Hutchinson's playing well. We need to get that ball down to Hutchinson and get him running at them. Get them running at them. Get press them high up the pitch, and they will. And if the 2 centre backs can deal with Jared Bowen, we know he's a brilliant player.
He's a threat, man. He's about 5 foot. What game was it, Des? We lost 3-2, and then he scored that header, didn't
he? He did, yeah. But then they've got to create opportunities, and I don't think they're going to create as many. And I think that will suit the 2 defenders because I think they're feeling the pressure. Of course, if Aina plays, it's more time where he ain't going to be under as much pressure. It was a baptism of fire up against Morgan Rogers and John McGinn, the other day. And he looked a completely different shape to what he used to be. He looked big. I'm not saying he looked heavy, but he just looked big. And it looked a bit of a struggle as the game went on. So maybe he gets a bit of a slightly easier night, but easing his way back into sort of full fitness again. So, and then what you get from Nico. So I think we've got the legs there to outdo a team who are probably worse off than us right now. It's just hitting the back of the net as well, isn't it? That's the key thing. Start peppering the goal. That's what if there's one criticism with all those crosses, which I've defended to some degree, is just start taking pop shots. If you're not getting through, we've got to start finding the target and things like that. Somehow. Yeah, somehow, and for me, get Jesus 10 yards further up the pitch. The way he holds up the ball, I've never seen anything like it. Honestly, that guy can control and turn a ball on his chest like no one I've ever seen.
Yeah, but Des, I think it was in the first half. Was it like the first 20 minutes? Like you just said, he was doing it. He was holding the ball well. I think, and the ref was just picking on him most of the time. Like
the refs aren't getting it. The refs are guessing. The refs are guessing, honestly, because they're not used to someone who can do it the way he does it. The problem is he's doing it on the halfway line, not on the edge of the penalty box. And that's the real problem. So we've got a real problem because the way Nuno played, he didn't mind how defenders sort of sat deep in their own half. The midfield then picks up the ball and drives. The wingers was absolutely on fire. But those wingers being absolutely on fire isn't happening now. Yes, Hutchinson's playing well. Hudson-Odoi seems to tire a lot at the moment. Doesn't seem fully fit. The others are just not impactful enough. So again, that transition of the ball. The problem was when we had Ange, wasn't it? We can't have Murillo and Milenkovic on the halfway line. But if we can't, we're not going to score goals at the top end because we haven't got that quick transition through the midfield to get the ball there. It's all going straight there. He's trying to chest it, and the other players aren't working hard enough to link up. And that's what it boils down to. It worked in that first game. I know Wood played that day and put a few chances, but it worked when Nuno played it. And then from there, it's never really worked since, has it?
No,
100%. The best player we've had recently, it's Sangare driving a little bit, changed his game a little bit from that.
Can't believe he said that. You're right, Des. You've been drinking.
But it's driving from the midfield. It's moving the ball. The others aren't doing that. They're not running with the ball like they used to. everybody criticises Gibbs White for this flick or that flick, and you can just see it's drained out of him. What we need him, like the other day, running with the football, because he's got the quality, and to be able to finish the way he did after he'd run so far with the football at his feet was absolutely unbelievable. Because I still look at that thinking, is he going to square it to the player coming in at the far post? But that's where the confidence has gone. So what they need is, and we've lost Sangare, hopefully he'll come back soon, or Louise or someone like that, driving from that midfield to really push it up, not just on the press, because it's hard with the press, because once you've not won the ball high, you're under pressure then the other way. So it becomes a bit like a stalemate in the middle if there's two poor teams like we expect tomorrow. So what you've kind of got to do is when you've got the ball, is force to press yourself, press onto them, with the ball, not without the ball. It's all about without the ball these days and what you do. No, that's not how you're going to score goals, though, is it? Man City score goals because they have the ball for 75% of the time. And it's a bit boring, it's a bit tippy tappy, but ultimately it wins out because they break down the opposition just by trying to play this press, and it looks good against Fulham. Played well for 10-15 minutes, was all over them.
100%.
But we're not clinical and not creating chances.
100%. Right, before we do go, people, watch the score prediction for tomorrow's game. I know there's quite a West Ham fans on the stream as well. So if you can get your score predictions as well, West Ham fans, it would be ideal. Please do hit the like button as well. Make sure, like I said, I put Dez's do daily link at the top of the list. So if you can, just subscribe to daily. Des talks about running, lots of running and mental health talk as well. So if you can, it'd be an honor. Just make sure you do subscribe to Des. Right, Des. Last but not least, like me and Des will be there tomorrow. People, quite a lot of West Ham fans asking, "Are we there?" Me and Des will be there tomorrow. 4th time we've been there. So hopefully Forest can win. We won there last season. All the vlogs are there as well in the description. So after this, if you can, go and watch them. We lost 2, won 1. So if you can, people, go and check them out. Right, before we get Des' prediction, Tim says 3-0 Forest. Bloody hell. That'd be nice to win. That'd be very nice if that happened. So shout to Tim. People, if you want to be a member, just like Tim, help me out. All you're going to do is hit the dollar sign and be a member. You get the vlogs first. So please do. Right, Des, last but not least, before we do go, what's your score prediction?
I don't know. Do you know, I've got 2-1 ringing around my head. It's very bog standard football score type thing. I just got a 2-1. I just think they can. I think they can get on top. And again, it's the first goal. If we score the first goal, I think we'll win comfortably. But I just think, it might be edgy, it might be tight. We might. The way I'm picturing it in my head, as you asked me, is we'll go 2-0 up and then we'll have a bit of a scare at the end.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. It might be, obviously, if I could predict that, I'd predict lottery numbers and be a millionaire. But no, that's the way I see it going. I just think we have, and it boils down to the application and performance on the day. We've got too much quality for them. We have still got too much, even though I'm pointing out a lot of faults for the attacking players. And I think the fact that they've got no strikers or are reluctant to play them, then will Paquetá play?
I don't know. Western fans, has Paquetá been playing? Because I don't. If you look at it, when was it? Was it Saturday they played? Was it Saturday? Did Paquetá play?
Because there's more rumours with Spurs, isn't there?
Yeah, he's not been playing. He didn't play against Wolves.
Well, again, that's a worrying thing because whilst Bowen is an absolute golden boy, he can't do it all on his own, can he?
Yeah. So
again, I think we might have enough defensively, and those guys as well. They've got to concentrate. They've really got to knuckle down and remember what they're good at. And I think if we do the basics well, this is all it boils down to, really. Do the basics well, we'll win the football match.
I hope we win, man. Just hope we win. I think my prediction, I think it's going to be tight. I'm going for you 2-1, but I don't know who to.
It's a bit like Saturday, isn't it? West Ham fans would have been thinking they've not won all season. We're going to go and win there. Football don't work like that.
Mm.
You know, and for all the doom and gloom right now, for both sets of fans, right? When we played Brentford, everyone was saying Brentford on the opening day, they're down. They're not coming back from that. They're the worst team we've ever seen. Then we played Leeds. Leeds ain't going to get another point. You know,
He's back.
since
He's back tomorrow. Packard's back tomorrow.
of course he is.
Oh, great! Thanks for Iron 72. You've made me a little bit of confidence now. Yeah, I think it'll be 2-1, but I'm not going to say who to. 2-1 to Forest. I'll say 2-1 to Forest. Just.
Do you know what could be a likely scoreline if we was just realistic and not wanting a team to get 3 points? 0-0.
0-0.
On the face of it.
0-0. It is a good result. If I'm honest, no, it's not, is it?
Well, like I think it was a Paddy Power tweet, wasn't it, when it says Forest will stay up this season because nobody else will win a game underneath them.
Oh, days! I'm saying 2-1. I'll say 2-1 to Forest. I'm not going to say West Ham, am I? But I think I'll take 2-1. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough with what's been happening in Forest and what's happening in West Ham. So, yeah, I'll say 2-1 Forest. Right, as you know, people, I'll be there tomorrow. Des will be there tomorrow. Des, if you want to follow Des on social media, especially X, he does his before and after game reaction.
You
so
don't
make sure
and when Forest get beat, you don't have to criticise me. It's not my fault.
Criticize Des, people.
I'm getting hammered at the minute, as if I've done something wrong.
You're gonna blame someone, don't they, Des? They're always gonna blame someone. At least I don't get blamed for anything, so I'm all right.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's all right.
So
make sure everyone follows Des on Instagram, on X. I'm on X. So what else is there? Make sure, like I say, if you are new to my channel, people, like I said, massive help. Please do hit the like button. Like if you hit the like button, it goes more better. So and as well, subscribe as well. I think I'm like, how many? What subscribers am I on now? I'm like bloody. I'm on 15 away from 12,800. So if you can, send 15 people who have not subscribed. Subscribe now. Helps me a lot, channel a lot. So please do. Right, let me get going. Thank you for everyone taking part as well. Very impressed with everyone who's commenting as well. Like I said, me, Des will be there tomorrow. I'll do my vlog, my after game reaction. I'll do my podcast on Wednesday night, maybe, if I get time. Yeah, I think I will. I will do the podcast Wednesday after 9 o'clock, maybe. So I'll see what time. But hopefully Forest win, people, because me and Des will be there. And I'm not going to lie. And no offense to West Ham fans. I know there's quite a lot of West Ham fans don't like the stadium, but I think it's the worst stadium in the Premier League. It's the worst stadium in the Premier League. I'm sorry, West Ham fans. I've got to say how it is. It is the worst stadium in the Premier League. It's soulless. And I wish I went to Upton. Did you ever go to Upton Park?
Yeah.
See, I'm jealous. I think I'm so jealous. But right, people, I'm gonna get going. Thank you everyone again. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. Make sure everyone subscribes to Do Daily as well in the description. Can Forest win tomorrow? Hopefully we can. We will be. If we do, we're 7 points away from West Ham. I'm praying to God, because if we win, I know Des is going to go on a heavy run, and I don't want to see Des on a heavy run. Peace and love, people. Up the Forest.